Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be diving into some important concepts in context of Linux. Linux offers a variety of compression techniques which can be highly useful whenever you are dealing with management of files which might be of large shapes and sizes, and you would like to send them across the network or make space on your workstation. We will go through 5 different file compression techniques: gzip, bzip2, xz, tar, and zip. There are more other than these, but these are the basic ones that we will be diving into. Before I get into it, I have already created a compression directory where all the required files are there for the sake of this demo. And so let's get started. Before I dive any further, there are certain differences across these. Gzip is one of the most commonly used methods for file compression. It's faster in nature, while bzip2 is a little bit a better form of compression. It is, however, slower when you compare it with gzip. xz is a high compression methodology. It is found mostly in modern Linux distros which might have come out later, while tar, you might already be familiar with it. It's useful for archiving several files which might be associated with gzip, bzip2 and xz. And let's get started. The first file compression technique that we will be diving into is gzip. So this is one of the most commonly used file compression tools in Linux, and let's get started with some examples. In this case, I would like to demo it with lorem text. So lorem text is just a simple file.txt which basically has a bunch of lorem ipsum texts which you can generate. For the purposes of this video, I have just created this. To check if gzip is installed, you would basically write gzip -version, and when you hit enter, you should get the version number. If it is not installed, you would have to follow up with these commands. You would have to do something like sudo apt install followed by the command, that is gzip. In this case, it will ask you for your password, which I hope you do remember. This is the same password that you would set up at the very beginning when you initialize Ubuntu or any version of Unix. So once you have done so, the gzip package would be found and the latest version would be installed, or if any other updates are there, that would be done. So if you are on CentOS, you would write the same thing. However, instead of apt, you would write something like yum. In this case, I will be zipping the file called lorem text. If I write lorem.txt, gzip lorem.txt, I would, when I hit enter and let's see the result, you would see that lorem.txt has been created with a gz extension file. Here what has happened is that the original file has been compressed into the .gz file, and the .gz extension indicates the compressed file. So let's see how much space we have gained by the process. For doing so, you can basically perform the comparison. So here we would just write lorem .txt followed by the lorem.txt, which was just compressed with the .gz, and -lh would allow us to see the difference. And when you hit enter, one more thing I forgot to mention is that you would have to change the user privileges for the file which was just created. You will have to write something like 755 or a+x or whatever you like. In this case, I am providing executable read write privileges for me, and when I hit enter you would see something like the lorem.txt.gz being it would come green because it finally has the read write permissions and execute privileges that I just granted. And when I try to execute the previous command as before, you would okay, I see the problem. Okay, wait a minute. I forgot. Here the file that we just compressed has been converted, so we do not have a copy of it. So in this case I will have to uncompress the file in order to get hold of the file. So in order to perform this particular command, so let's perform that. So if you want to uncompress the file that you just compressed, you would have to do something like gunzip. So the gunzip command basically extracts the compressed files and it just removes the .gz extension. Let's do that. So .gz ls, and you can see that that file has now been converted back to a .txt file. Here however I would like to create a copy of lorem.txt in order to showcase the difference. So in this case let's go into lorem.txt and let's get hold of our text data. To insert, escape mode, you select the entire data. Sorry guys, let's create a new file called lorem.copy.txt. We'll paste the file and we'll move back up to the very beginning in order to get hold of the file. Sorry guys, this was a little bit unexpected in hindsight from my end, but yeah, I'm sorry for the delay. Yeah, so this process has been completed and you can see that the contents of both the files would be the same, and now we will perform our comparative test to see how much size was gained. So in this case we'll have to again compress lorem.txt into the zip file. So we basically write gzip -l. You can see that we have done so again, and this time we will compare how much space we have gained. So for the purpose of this we will basically write lorem copy.txt and lorem.txt.gz, and when we hit enter you can see that there has been a reduction of almost 1400 kilobytes specifically, and you can see that this process methodology works and it has helped us save some space. Similarly, the gzip command can also be utilized for the purposes of of compressing multiple files at once. So here I have already created three files, the three text files, and we will be converting each of these files into .gz files independently. So we will write something like gzip, we will write lorem1.txt, lorem2.txt, and lorem3.txt, and when you hit enter, you type ls-l, you can see that the text files that we had have been individually been compressed, and similarly we can perform the process of gun zipping these three files as well. So for the purposes of that, you will have to write something like gz dot one another thing I forgot to mention is that when you have such a scenario, you would not do something like this. You would use wildcard characters, and you write something like .txt .gz, and when you hit enter -ls, you can see that all the three files which were compressed previously have now been uncompressed. So the purpose of wildcard characters as asterisks is that it basically represents any text value followed by the .txt and .gz being the extension. So what we have given here as an instruction is that we would like to unzip any existing file with an extension .txt .gz which is applicable to all lorem 1, 2 and 3 which have been compressed. So as a result we get the same. Similarly, we can also perform the process of compressing an entire directory. Here gzip command is not used as traditionally. Here in this particular example I would be showing you a way to use tar into this mix. So once you do this process, you will get a compressed file which basically ends with an extension .tar.xz, which essentially archives all the containing files from that directory. So when you perform tar, in this case we will be compressing the entire directory of lorems, which contains file 1, lorem 1, 2, 3, and for that you write something like -czvf. So what here we are doing is that we are compressing all the files in a verbose manner into archive. Let's write something like archive.tar.xz followed by the name of the directory, which is lorem, and then you hit enter. So it will basically go recursively into the file and it would compress the entire content. So you see that we have effectively made a copy of lorems and have archived that with the in this case I made a small spelling mistake. So you get the gist. We can basically rename this. You can write something like archive into archive.gz -l. In this case I have corrected my mistake. So you can see that we have effectively compressed it into an archive file, and it basically has now formed a .tar.gz file, which basically has the compressed file. We can also check how much space that we have gained by basically writing ls-lh followed by the archive file. In this case we will just write lorems followed by the archive.gz, and you can see that the entire space which was occupied by the files contained in lorems is around about 12 kilobytes, while that of the files which are present within archive.gz have been compressed to 1.1 kilobytes. But this would not look like much, but the thing is, when you are working on large systems and when you want to compress files which are consisting of gigabytes or even a few megabytes, you would basically perform this operation, and you would basically compress all the files, and you would make a lot of space by doing so. And this is where this usefulness basically comes in. It might not be very obvious once we are doing this with this kind of an example, but you basically get the gist. Yeah, so we can also, again, as I mentioned, you can also uncompress this same file. So you basically write tar xzvf hyphen xzvf followed by archive.tar.xz, and once you hit this, it would basically uncompress the same file, and you would have the file. It has been uncompressed, I suppose. Moving on, so to summarize, to compress a file, you basically would perform gzip followed by the name of the file, which is file.name.txt, anything. And to do the same operation of unzipping the file, you would write gunzip followed by the name of the file ending with the .gz. Same operation can be done with compression of multiple files all at once using gzip followed by individual files that are of your interest, which need to be compressed. And to compress a directory, you basically use tar. You would type something like tar followed by czvf, and similarly, if you want to uncompress, you will write xzvf. So here V stands for verbose, F stands for forceful. It's a forcefully you are recursively going into the particular folder of your interest and you are compressing the file. X stands for uncompression. And yeah, so I hope you got to know a little bit about gzip. It is pretty useful. Moving on, similar to gzip is bzip. What a surprise! So this is also another file compression tool, and some of the examples are as follows. So in order to check if you have bzip2 installed, you would write bzip --version as before, and when you hit enter, you would get some essential version information associated with that. If it is not installed, you would basically write sudo apt install bzip2 install bzip2, and when you hit enter, it will basically go and find the latest build and it will install the same. And yeah, let us go on with our example. In this case, as I have mentioned, I would like to unzip my lorem.txt tz for the purposes of this. Okay, so if you type bzip2 followed by the name of the specific text file that you are interested in, or any file that you are interested in compressing, you basically write bzip2 followed by the name of the file which you are interested in compressing. When you hit enter, you would basically get the same you would basically have converted the text file into a .bz2 file. It ends with an extension .bz2, which indicates that the file has now been converted to a bzip2 file. In order to decompress the file, similar to gzip where the term basically changes to gunzip, here bzip would change to bunzip. In this case, which would be bunzip2, and then you would have to write lorem.txt.bzip2. When I hit enter, it would basically remove the bz2 extension, and you would basically have this file. Same as gunzip, this command can also be utilized for the purposes of compressing multiple files all at once. So basically write bzip2 followed by the multiple files that you are interested in. In this case, you write bzip2, which would be lorem1.txt, lorem2.txt, and let's say txt.txt, and when you hit enter, now you would see that the files have been compressed. Similar to before, there is compression taking place and you basically have multiple files compressed. We would like to uncompress these files, so for the purpose of this you would write bzip2 followed by the special character txt.bz, and when you hit enter, we're going to bzip2 and hit enter, it would uncompress all the files. In order to showcase the capacity of compression, I would like to again re-execute the bzip2 command. In this case, lorem.txt can be ls-lh when we will check lorem.txt.bzip followed by lorem copy.txt, and let's see how much was compressed. As before, you can see that the size has been reduced by 1 kilobyte. So this is again showing a much better rate of compression than gzip, which further reduces the size. So it's highly useful when you are working with large file systems where space would be a limitation, and there are different kinds of compression techniques which are available out there which have different kinds of uses. Now, similar to gzip, we can also use bzip for the purposes of compressing entire directories. So in this case, let's go back to compression. We would go and compress the lorem's file. Let's do that. For the purpose of that, you basically use tar as before and write jvf followed by a name. In this case, we will write archive.tar.xz2 followed by the directory name lorems, and when you hit enter, it would basically perform the similar task as gzip did before, and you would basically get an archive file which basically ends with the term bzip2. Same technique can also be utilized for the purposes of unarchiving the same file. So for that, you would write tar-xjvf followed by the name of the archive. Here we would write archive2.tar.xz2, and when you hit enter, it would unarchive the entire file. So it would uncompress the file as before. So to summarize, you would basically write bzip2 followed by the name of the file that you want to compress, and you would basically uncompress the same file using bzip2 followed by the name of the said file which ends with .bz2. Similarly, you can also compress several files all at once by writing bzip2 followed by the names of the files consecutively, one after the another. While if you want to compress an entire directory, you would basically write tar-cjvf followed by the name of the file ending with .tar.bz2. While if you want to uncompress the same file, you would write the same thing as before. However, this time instead of -cjvf, you would basically write -xjvf followed by the name of the said .tar.bz2 file. So that was bzip2. While now we would move to the next file compression technique, which basically is xz. So it's another efficient file compression technique in Linux which allows it to do the same. In order to check if this particular command is installed, you would again write xz hyphen version and you hit enter. You should get some kind of a version detail being displayed. A version number would be shown. In this case, in my case, it is installed. However, if it is not, you would write sudo apt install xz and you hit enter. It will go out and basically get the file. Sorry, in this case you will not write xz, you will write utils and you hit enter and you would get the xz utilities. So in order to compress the file, let's say I want to compress the lorem.txt file, you write xz followed by lorem.txt and when you hit enter -l, you will see that the file has been compressed and now it ends with the extension xz. So this indicates that this particular file has been compressed. To compare the difference of the compression between the copies, you will basically write ls-l lorem.txt followed by lorem copy, which contains the same information as before, and you will see that there is kind of a reduction of bytes by at least 1000. This method of compression is much better compared to gzip and bzip2, which makes the file compression much smaller. In order to uncompress the same file, you would basically write unxz. It's a bit tricky to say this. unxz sorry, followed by the name of the text file ending with the .xz extension. When you perform this, it would basically uncompress the same file. Similarly as before, you can also perform the process of compressing multiple files at once. Here I have lorem1.1, 2 and 3a. Just as before, you would write xz followed by the names. At this point it's pretty self-explanatory in order to execute this sort of a command, which is kind of similar to previous, which is gunzip and bunzip, bz and gzip. Similarly, I would like to now uncompress these files, so I will basically write unxz followed by the character txt followed by xz, unless it has now uncompressed the files. Moving on, we can again perform the process of compressing entire directories with the same process with the help of tar. In this case, you would write -czvf followed by the name and followed by the name of the directory that we want to compress, and when you hit enter, it will do the same, and now you will have a file where all the contents have been compressed by the extension .tar.xz. So this is pretty self-explanatory. After a point it becomes pretty mundane, and because it's just the same as before, there is no much difference. Similarly, if you want to uncompress, you basically write something like xzvf followed by the name of the file. In this case, we are gonna uncompress the file which ends with .xz, and when you hit enter, in this case the J would always be uppercase. I see the problem, sorry, the autocomplete has mistaken the wrong file. okay. Sadly, there is some issue with this version of compression that I'm using, so I will have to get back to you on this one, but this is what should work on your PC. So in order to summarize, if you want to compress a file, you would basically write xz followed by the name of the file. If you want to decompress, you would write unxz followed by the name of the file ending with the extension .xz. Similarly, as before, you would write xz followed by consecutive file names for the compression of multiple files. In order to compress an entire directory ending with .tar.xz, you would use tar-c capital J VF. While in order to uncompress the same file, you would basically use tar-x jvf followed by the name of the file. I would like to see what the issue is here. For me, it shows as a file format that has not been recognized. That might be due to some installation issues. Sorry guys, for reasons unknown, hyphen I will have to do something like this. I am not sure. Yeah, I will get back to you on this one. Moving on to the next file compression system is zip. Zip is one of those methods which is also available, compression technique which is also available on Windows. You might have used .zip files on Windows multiple times at some point. This same thing is also available on Linux as well. Just to check if it is installed, you write something like zip version, you hit enter, you should see some version number associated with this. If not, you would write sudo apt install zip, you hit enter, it would go out there and get you the latest version. In order to zip a file, you would write lorem.txt and you will hit enter. Yeah, sorry, unlike before, force of habit, unlike before, zip files require you to mention the name of the file that you are the name of the zip file that you are creating, followed by the name of the text file. In this case, that is lorem.txt, and when you hit enter, the same file would be compressed by 56%. In this case, it showcases that particular information to you. When you write ls-l, you will see this newly created lorem.zip file. If you compare, unlike before, unlike the previous compression techniques that we showcased here, the text file is not changed into a .zip file, and a copy of the original will always be there, which was not the case before. If you write lorem.txt and lorem.zip, hit enter, you can see that there is significant amount of reduction, unlike before, and it has done the process. Similarly, you can unzip the same file by the process of writing unzip, which basically allows you to uncompress the file, which is let's perform that. And here, since I have a copy of the text file, I would like to rename it, and I will like lorem uncompressed.txt, hit enter, and here the same file has now been uncompressed. So this form of compression is far more advanced compared to before, unlike the gzip, bzip or xz. So here there is an option of also, it checks the file location if a copy exists, and you can basically rename the file or replace the contents, or reject performing this operation at all. Similarly, I can basically perform the process of compressing multiple files at once with respect to the files that are present before. So in this case, I will have to specify a name. In this case, I will specify the name as archive.zip, followed by the names of the text files here, and then I perform the process by entering this particular command, and you can see that for each file it showcases the amount of space it has saved, and showcases by how much percentage it has basically compressed this file. And here, just like before, the original copies would be available to you, and you would basically have the contents present. If you are not present within the directory, let's say you want to compress an entire directory, which we have, which is not what we did here. We have to go within the file, and let's perform the process of unzipping this particular file. Let's say I rename this, and let's say file1.txt, and this process I am gonna repeat for all the 3 files which are there. So let's enter those details. Txt file, okay, let me perform that again. Txt, so you can see that zip file does exist. Let's say I want to compress this lorem's directory. For the purpose of that, you would basically write zip -r followed by the name of the zip file that you want to create. In this case, I will write something like directory.zip followed by the name of the file, a directory that I am interested in. Let's say this. So here you can see that since archive.zip is present within this, that would be rejected, and it would be simply be stored, while the process of compression would be applied to the rest of the text files which are present. Similarly, as before, you would basically uncompress this zip file by writing unzip followed by the name of the file ending with the .zip extension, and you hit enter. Here, since it's asking me to replace, I would say yes, I would like to replace the files. Here it's gonna ask me for each of the files. Here I will just say yes to all, and so all is good. Same as before, you can also unzip these files to specific destinations. Let's say I have a file called file, and let's move into the file, and let's create a new file called folder. Let's go back and let's see if our structure has been created. One interesting thing about unzip is that you can also unzip entire files to a specific location. So for the purposes of that, you basically would mention something like -d followed by the path. In this case, I have file followed by folder, and when I hit enter, it would basically uncompress the contents of the zip file to that specific location. And you can see that once it has performed the process of unzipping, that is deflating it, it would basically showcase that the file name as well at a particular location. Another interesting aspect of zip is a very interesting thing is you as a user have the ability to mention a specific password for performing a zip. So it basically allows you to have a security feature inbuilt, which is very cool if you ask me, because this kind of a facility is not available with respect to the other zip files. And let's perform that. Before that, you would write something like zip -e followed by, let's say we will write secure.zip because this file is secure. And let's say we basically take lorem copy.txt and basically hit enter. So once I do this, it would basically encrypt this particular file into a .zip file, and it would basically prompt me for a password. So in this case, I will write something simple, and when I hit enter, it would ask me to verify the same, just to make sure that the enter password and the password that I intend to use in the future are the same. And once I do that, it would basically deflate this particular file. Let's say I want to unzip this particular file, let us secure. Once I do this, it would ask me for the password, and I promptly enter the same. Since I have the same file at the same location, I would basically rename this, let's say unsecure file .txt file, let's say. So here we have basically performed the process of ensuring that our data is safe by giving this optional use of password protected zip. So yeah, in order to summarize, zip files basically can be created by using the zip command with the by mentioning the .zip. So the structure is a little bit different. So here with zip, you have to mention the name of the intended compressed file as well, ending with .zip, followed by the name of the target file that you are interested in. Similarly, this same structure follows with respect to compressing multiple files at a specific directory, whereby which you have the files present at the present working directory where you are located at. So the same structure follows, where the file names are mentioned consecutively. And once you perform this, you can also uncompress the same file by basically mentioning -r followed by the name of the location where you would wish to, which would be something like this, something here, where you are basically specifying the location. Here it will recursively uncompress the folders and files which are there within the zip file. And yeah, with zip, as before, you would use basically -e followed by the name of the zip file with the target folder or file which you are interested in. And since once you do this, it would basically prompt you a password. You would be asked to re-enter the same password for the purposes of verifying the commonality between them, and once you do that, you can perform the unzip only and only if you know this specific password. So yeah, this is how you would zip a file for the purposes of compression in Linux, and I hope you found this useful. And yeah, I'll meet you until next time. Bye.